So I'm gonna go ahead and mention just a few different data types that I feel like are very prominent in today's time. And don't get me wrong, I'm probably leaving out some data types, but these are the ones that I get the most exposure to. And it'd be Ethernet IP, Profinet, IO link. Those are just a few of the data types that that are very prominent in our industry and very popular in our industry as well. And some of these data types, we're also going into the next level of those. And when I say the next level, I mean we're adding safety on top of these communication protocols. Whereas these communication protocols a lot of times are already a safe communication method. Now we're adding extra layers to the protocol to make them a safer protocol. So now we have what's called CIP safety, right? Which is essentially safety over Ethernet, which means we can pass safety signals from devices like the PLC to the robot to do things such as an e-stop condition. And then for Profinet, you have ProfiSafe. And this is the same type of concept. You're essentially able to send safety signals over the network. And I love this. This is something that I think should be inside of every single machine, especially if it's a larger capital piece of equipment. You can just do all of your safety setup over a network. There's no hardwired connections. You set up the communication between the devices, and then after you have the communication set up, now there's different IOs and stuff that you can modify and change on the fly to adapt the safety of the robot. Right? And so let's say, for instance, you recognize an unsafe situation. Instead of having to have an electrician come out, rewire more wires, add a new relay, do all these things, literally you just go into the PLC, add the conditions that you want to be able to have a safe condition for, and you're done. Right? Don't get me wrong, you might need to add some input hardware and that might be there, but also another thing that has become easier, with the safety device, you generally have, it's a hardwired safety device, you have two OSD wires that come off of that, or two, safety chains, and you can wire that directly into a safety input card, right? Which you might already have other safety devices in that area and a safety input card that's located near to the device. And so now you're able to expand a safety system much more easily. Like say for instance, we use Allen Bradley's GuardLogix PLC, and then we use remote IO throughout the system. So let's say for instance, if we have an HMI station, the HMI station has an e-stop button on it. It also has a remote IO module in there and has safe input cards, so that way the e-stop that's on that is tied right to that remote IO module, and the wiring for that e-stop is very minimal. There's like literally less than 3 feet of wiring for that e-stop. So if ever there's an issue where that e-stop is not working, we're able to troubleshoot that very, very easily. And also with the way these networks are being set up now you can also identify that e-stop stopped working before anybody pressed it, right? You can send pulsated signals through the e-stop that is essentially testing continuously, always, throughout its entire lifetime, if that e-stop is good. So there's not any conditions of Billy Joe hit that e-stop button and it didn't do anything, right? At least from a wiring standpoint, it can't be defeated and it can't be, the wiring can't be manipulated. Everything is in a much more safe condition. And this is able to be accomplished because of communication protocols, right? If that communication protocol wasn't there for the remote IO module that connects the remote IO module to the PLC, that is the conduit, that is the connector between the two that allows us to be able to perform things like this safety over Ethernet. And the ProfiSafe is the same type of thing. It's the exact same methodology. The setup will be a little bit different, and the way devices communicate on the back end will be different, but the technology is essentially the same. Now, to go back against that, there are some devices that will have ProfiSafe built into them. Let me use a laser scanner, for example. Some devices might have ProfiSafe built into the laser scanner, right? Whereas maybe this same laser scanner doesn't have a safety over Ethernet version of it, and vice versa. You might have a safety over Ethernet version of it, but you don't have a ProfiSafe version of it. So it's because it's still a new enough thing in the market that not every brand is caught up, or a brand has made the decision, we're gonna focus on ProfiSafe, whereas another brand made the decision of we're gonna focus on SIP safety, and then later on we'll worry about the other. And so this is just part of the business strategy for their companies and what route they decided to go. I think, however, there'll be a SIP safety and a ProfiSafe version of all pieces of equipment into the future.